We continue our story on the moon with Devastator pretty much formed at this point. And we have Wheeljack and Seaspray thinking like, okay, you know what? That's our bad. We may have gotten a little bit too over our heads here. But this is where they actually start thinking as they are blasting and running around Devastator. To which Wheeljack says, well, it would be nice if we had a very explosive exit. To which he turns to Seaspray. And Seaspray is like, I like what you're thinking. I'll give you that opening. So Seaspray takes out his cannons, probably like harpoon guns or something like that. You know what? I'm going to give him a subsonic repeater. I think it just suits him. And so he shoots the thrusters of Devastator's downship, pouring out energon. And Wheeljack takes out a grenade, dodges another punch from Devastator, and says bombs away, throwing the grenade at the ship, causing it to blow up and send everyone hurling in the opposite directions, with Devastator going into a faceplant, with Seaspray pretty much going like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Wrecker style. However, when the Decepticon warship goes into view, they both like, yeah, now we're not doing this, and simply run on their ship. And keep in mind, they still have like a conjoined ship at this point, or at least it's probably Wheeljack or Seaspray. So let's just say it's Wheeljack because, still need that man's grenades, right? So he pretty much goes onto the ship and they pretty much beeline it towards Earth. This is where we then see Megatron descend, and Devastator's like, Megatron is that you? That you're alive? To which Megatron simply states, indeed, it is me, Devastator, your lord and master at your beck and call. And so, Devastator kneels. But let's head back to Earth, or at least where Wheeljack was supposed to be in canon. And we have Scourge and Windblade going at it back and forth, with Scourge saying, it was nothing personal, Windblade, just business. You killed our leader. You killed our people. It's more than personal. Ugh, you Autobots, or you comedians and your morality. So disgusting. Meanwhile, we have Battletrap actually engaging with Zoe, and he's simply trying to hit her. Yeah, this ain't going well. Zoe is literally skating around him with the thrusters on her back, and utilizing her daggers just starts like turning him into a pincushion. And he's like, hold still. To which Zoe's like, nah, this is more fun. And then we pan over to a much more serious fight. Mira and Rummy versus Nightbird. And Nightbird is like, come on now, girls. It was nothing personal. Just an opportunity for me to grow. And this is where she starts taunting them. And Mira, giving into her anger, actually starts making more reckless move, causing Rummy to put on her battle mask and actually go in a lot quicker. Keep in mind, Mira is the more aggressive of the Huntrixes anyway. So I think having her have like a reckless anger that sometimes gets the better of her can be a good flaw for her to overcome. And well, yeah, Nightbird does get the best of both of them. But this is where Team Prime shows up with Nightbeat, Blaster, RC, and Grimlock. Bulkhead is actually meeting with Seaspray and Wheeljack, kind of informing them on the situation. And Lifeline and Bumblebee are actually out on a mission. So, that being said, let's begin. Scourge tells Battletrap to come to him. And so, Grimlock and Blaster are the ones to engage with Scourge and Battletrap. And keep in mind, Grimlock stays in his robot form as he can pretty much assess that these guys aren't going to be a challenge. Blaster starts off summoning his Minicon companion, Steeljaw, which is a line, by the way, in the original. So, Steeljaw runs at Battletrap, causing Battletrap to summon his mace and swing with everything he's got. However, Blaster utilizes his sonic cannons to push it away and allow Steeljaw to simply pounce on him and maul him. Keep in mind, he still has the damage done to him by Zoe, so this isn't going well. Meanwhile, Scourge takes out both his weapons, while Grimlock simply prepares himself to deal some massive amount of damage. And so, the two rush at each other. Scourge tries to sidestep and get a sneaky, guess you could say ankle stab on Grimlock. But Grimlock simply lifts his foot and crushes Scourge into the ground, causing Scourge to shoot his cannon up in Grimlock's face, which does cause him to stumble back a little bit. Scourge then runs at him and then tries to jump on Grimlock and tries to stab him. However, Grimlock catches him mid-air and then turns this man into Loki and starts bashing him like 1, 2, 3, spins him around, and throws Scourge right into the gas station. With Grimlock going, oh, ah, ooh. That's not good, is it? To which RC is like, absolutely not, you reckless idiot. I'm like, okay, my bad, chill. To which Grimlock's like, yo, my bad, I'm so sorry. To which RC's like, fine, just don't do something like that again. However, Scourge comes out and tries to ram him in his Cybertronian truck form, to which Grimlock simply grabs it and simply tosses it over his shoulder, and he's like, geez, this really isn't a challenge now, is it? Meanwhile, Blaster is now at a close range with Battle Trap and actually begins boxing him up, hitting him with a left, a right, and then a spinning, I guess you could say, back fist. Keep in mind, Blaster, you know, is a man of culture. He should be able to study some of Earth's fighting styles. So, if I had to say how he's moving, bro's moving like Prime Mike Tyson. And unfortunately, Battle Trap's not going to know what that reference means. So this means he gets comboed up, pieced up, and then gets knocked back to the point where he is laying beside his leader, defeated. And Blaster simply recalls Steeljaw, telling him what a good boy he is. With Grimlock wondering, so we're going to execute them, right? To which Blaster's like, I don't know. This could be a nice opportunity to lure in the Decepticons. Wait a minute. That's exactly what we need. Hey, Nightbeat, I got an idea. And so this is where he simply looks on one of the Decepticons, either Scourge or Battle Trap, and pulls out a transmission. And so he activates it, hoping to get the Decepticons' attention. But let's pan over to another fight that was actually happening at the same time here. Nightbird versus RC kicks off with RC ramming into Nightbird with her vehicle form. However, at that time, she just witnesses Grimlock throwing Scourge into the gas tank and is like, oh my god, you reckless idiot. Why would you do that? The humans need that. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, whatever. But this is where she simply states, ugh, just don't do it again. And this is where RC takes out her wrist blades and engages Nightbird, who pulls out her katanas. And so both of them go back and forth, with RC actually being noted by Nightbird to have exceptional skill, but nothing close to hers. To which RC says, we'll see about that. And so they both begin their back and forth, with Rummy and Mira kind of feeling a little bit ostracized at the moment, as they didn't expect to be outshone like that. However, this isn't the time to worry about that, as a Decepticon warship pretty much comes into view. And this is a very big issue, especially when the Constructicons drop down, with Hook and Mixmaster looking at each other saying, well, seems like Megatron's more elites got themselves into a tough situation. Wait a minute, are those comedians? I could have sworn Scourge said he wiped them out the last time they spoke. And to which, this is where Windblade looks and literally gets a little bit of, I guess you get a little fear in her. She's like, crap, we can't take him on we can't take him all on like this. We're badly outnumbered, probably outgunned. And this is where Megatron descends from the ship. And he simply states, well then, don't play around, Constructicons. Finish them off. Into which Mira simply turns to RC. Who the heck is that? Into which RC simply states, Megatron. And each of the Huntrixes freeze in fear. And this is where Scourge, getting up, simply states, Megatron, glad that you're here. I have something to offer you that you likely wouldn't be able to resist. Well, other than me and my team's services. And this is where Megatron simply states, it ought to be good. Meanwhile, this is where Devastator the Constructicons simply combine into Devastator. And they simply say, time to exterminate every Autobot here. Into which RC is like, oh my god. We haven't dealt with this in a while. We usually have something powerful like Superion or Defensor, but we don't have them anymore. What do we do? To which Grimlock simply touches her on the shoulder and says, no worries, I got it. To which she's like, are you sure? To which he's like, yeah, I got it. And this is where Zoe looks at the others like, what's the big guy talking about? There's no way he's gonna beat a whole combiner, right? Let alone maybe even match it. To which Blaster, overhearing him, says, now, ladies, Big G's got it. He may not look like much. But again, he's a lot scarier than you think. Well, at least until you get to know him, because he's a giant teddy bear. To which Grimlock tells Blaster to shut up, and he transforms into his Tyrannosaurus form. And this is where all the Huntrixes are like, oh my god, that is the coolest thing ever. To which Wimba's like, huh, impressive. And so, Devastator simply states, you think you can take me on with that despicable form? And Grimlock says, let's find out. And they both rush at each other. But we gotta go back to Decepticon's ship, because that's where Nightbeat is. He grappled up there and snuck in, utilizing the corridors and his stealth skills to kill any Decepticon. But this is where he then decides to deactivate the device that controls the Dinobots. And in their kennel, or at least in the kennel they would have kept Predacons, this is where Scorn and the rest of them feel themselves being free, no longer controlled by lockdown. And Scorn simply states, you feel that? Slug goes, yeah. And Straker's like, yeah, we're free. We can go back. We can be with Grimlock again. We can be with the big boss. But what if he doesn't take us back? We did attack him, right? I mean, how do we make up for that kind of betrayal? And to which Slug simply states, we didn't betray him willingly. We were forced to. Grimlock knows that. And we wouldn't be freed if it wasn't for him. So Slug transforms and simply tells his Dinobot companions, let's wreck this entire warship and find the boss. Or die trying. And so, when Slug bursts through, the other Dinobots start going ham on this warship. And this is where Lockdown is like, crap, they're free, and I didn't even finish my secondary device, this is bad. However, back with Nightbeat, he also just downloaded the rest of the Iacon files, and managed to get all of it. Thanks to the Dinobots' timely distraction, he's able to get all the files. And Project Predacon as well. Very interesting. However, as he turns, he's actually blocked off by Arachnid, who simply states, well, look at what we have here. The Autobot stealth operator and assassin. To which Nightbeat says, actually, I'm the Autobot stealth operator, assassin, and second in command. To which Arachnid says, good. Then let's just settle this as fellow lieutenants. However, Nightbeat says, yeah, we're not going to do that today. Look behind you. And Arachnid actually does look behind her. And this is where Slug simply rams her. Arachnid is kind of lucky because he, like, fitted her right between his horns and kind of just, like, yeeted her up. And this is where she kind of just hits the ceiling and is just knocked out after that. So Slug transforms and is like, who are you? Do I need to kill you? And this is where he actually sees, the destroyed device on the floor and is like, so you're the one that freed us? To which this is where Nightbeat simply says, yeah, name's Nightbeat. I'm a friend of your boss, Grimlock. He actually sent me here to, rescue. Never gave up on you guys either. He had always hoped you'd be released. And this making Slug feel better causes him and the Dinobots to actually take Nightbeat's advice at this point. So they wreck the ship a little bit, but then they head out. But outside, Grimlock and Devastator are reaching the peak of their battle. Devastator has bite and burn marks on him, but he has Grimlock pinned down and takes out his drill hands, about to pretty much end him, or at least going to try to. So as he tries to drill through Grimlock's tough hide, which is excruciating, Grimlock begins to tail whip him at, with everything he has. However, this is where Devastator lets out a sharp, painful roar. And this is where, or yell, excuse me. And this is where Grimlock can see Slug stabbing him in the leg, telling him to get off his bleeder. And this is where Strafe says, get off our friend, and begins slashing, Devastator's face up. I mean, dude, this dude is not going to be... Now, you know what? Knockout's just going to have a whole lot of people to repair after this. And this is where Scorn says, back off my family. And he actually utilizes his spines to stab Devastator in the leg, but rolls as well, causing even more pain. And Grimlock is like, you guys you're free, you're back. Dinobots, destroy Devastator. Let me know if you guys get the reference. And he actually breathes out his flames, pushing Devastator back and causing him a tremendous, and I mean a tremendous amount of pain. However, this is where a black beam shoots out and causes a massive explosion, sending the Dinobots tumbling back, but they're able to quickly recover and get up. And it was from none other than Megatron, who tells the Constructicons to disengage and retreat, to which they all do and simply have Scrapper, not Scrapper, oh actually yeah, it was Scrapper, apologize to Megatron, and they all transform and head back to the warship, with obviously it taking off a lot slower. But this is where we go back to Autobot Hangar E. Everyone's there. However, one little thing. They got Orion Pax. Yeah, Nightbeat was able to convince him, and, well, he was able to get Orion out of there stealthily without being caught. And this is where everyone pretty much goes back to base and are greeted by Bumblebee and Lifeline, as well as Bulkhead, who's actually chatting it up with Sea Spray and Wheeljack, being the happiest ever been along with Miko. This is where Lifeline also states that she and Bumblebee found a Decepticon space bridge that would allow them to go to Cybertron and get Optimus his memories back. And so, this is where we head off to the Decepticon warship as well, where Megatron does have to assess all the damage these Dinobots done. And he does, smack Lockdown around a little bit because he didn't finish that device sooner. But this is where he turns to Scourge. What do you have to offer me? And Scourge simply tells Battletrap to bring it. And, well, Battletrap presents a case which Scourge kindly takes and pretty much simply kneels before Megatron, saying that these are from the vaults of Caminus, a weapon of the Primes themselves. And he opens the case to reveal the Requiem Blaster. And Megatron gets a sadistic and powerful smile on him. And he simply states, yes, yes, yes. With this by my side, possibly intertwined with my own railgun, I will be unstoppable. We would then head over to the Harbinger, finally. And this is where someone is laughing maniacally, saying, it's finally finished. He did it. He's done it. And, well, this is where we see Starscream. But the protoforms are already colorful and filled up and loyal to, and he says, rise, my Predacons. And this is where we would see the Abominus team. And yes, I do think Starscream would be able to implement the combination as well, considering he was a scientist aboard Trypticon. And plus, he's been with the Decepticons long enough, so he knows how to make his advantages. And this is also where we would end it off with a dark energon meteor heading into Earth solar system. And that's where we're going to leave it off here, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends, and the chaos is just beginning.